Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Commodity TV in a new edition of our online interview series. We want to get a short update from Latitude Uranium, and John Jentz, the CEO, is here with us. Again, welcome, John. How are you?
Yeah, Jochen, I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, perfect. All fine. Thank you. Yeah, it looks like as I just said, that we have an interview now every week because you guys were very active and you brought out again, I think, fantastic results. So let's get started with that. You just published the holes 12 to 18 plus the whole four, which was missing. Overall, what's the feeling on that?
As far as we're concerned, the great results. I mean, the whole four, it just confirms with the whole six and eight.
Hmm.
This is this new lens that we found, and we believe, our working theory is that it's the hanging wall mineralization, the existing mineralization being the footwall. And if that is in fact turns out to be the case,
Hmm.
being able to find more hanging wall mineralization along the existing structure should be possible.
Hmm.
And what we're coming to appreciate is it's a little bit more geological, but there's what they call cross-cutting structures. So you see in the picture in our December 4th news release, the mineralization is like this. The cross-cutting structures sort of come in on an angle, but what happens is it splits the rock or gives the rock a little bit of room to allow the fluids in there, and that's typically where we find A, the mineralization, but B, the higher grade mineralization. If you remember hole 5 from the first press release in
Hmm.
November 7th, it was 7.5%, and it's if you look on the picture on the press release in December 4, it's located right at the southern edge of where these cross-cutting structures come in. So we're still learning a bit about where to sort of target the rich
Hmm.
zones, but that certainly proved out to be the case. And if you look at hole number 14, it's the same thing where we got two hits over two
Hmm.
percent. And so as far as we're concerned, we sort of done what we say we're going to do, which is add mineralization or add size to the resource. You can see that in the cross sections,
Hmm.
and we're learning more about how to target. And so, now that we've closed the financing,
Hmm.
we can sort of start to over the winter months, January, February, we can start planning for a sort of a
Yeah,
late April, May start.
yeah.
And that's we've got the money in the bank, so that's great. So
Mhm.
as far as that's concerned, life is good that way.
Absolutely. I would say ready to rumble the uranium rock.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you because I found that really interesting. Those 7.5% U308 over 1.6 meters. That is really nice. And
Yes.
this is also infilling a 100-meter gap in the historical drilling. Um, what does that mean in the sense of you normally drill between 0.1% up to zero point 0.8, maybe over 1%, and now all of a sudden you have those 7.5? Is this something like you would say maybe in gold mining you would maybe say, oh, that's a big nugget, this is nice to have, but it is something okay? Or is this something where you say how there could be much more fire behind the smoke?
Well, there's two important things that come from a sort of a great result like that. The first is that um, it is an infill hole, and how how resource modeling works is you need holes every so many meters,
Hmm.
depending on what the,
Hmm.
the the resource geologist thinks is the correct spacing. And so some of the holes, historic holes, are there, but they're not in the resource, not because they're not valid or they're not
Hmm.
accurate. It's just the spacing's not off. So we're trying to sort of fill in some of these spacings, like hole 5 did, but as well, hole 5 just happened to be at the southern edge of one of these cross-cutting faults.
Hmm.
And so it sort of did two things the hole for us. Is it confirmed sort of that we can infill the hole, and that's great because it'll fill in the resource. How much we don't know yet, but also that we're sort of testing this geological theory that these cross-cutting structures is where the real high grade is. And we
Hmm.
sort of saw that in hole 15, although not quite 7.5%, but still, north of 2% is
Hmm.
over two hits is fairly decent.
Hmm.
And so we're learning more, and this new lens of this hanging wall mineralization. I think if the people who are real mining aficionados will appreciate, it adds resource. It's a little bit lower grade than our average grade, but to the extent that we start developing this or start moving forward in the development timeline,
Hmm.
basically what it does is in an open pit scenario is it turns waste, or it reduces your strip ratio, turns waste into some type of ore.
Hmm.
So it's just going to increase the open pit economics over
Hmm.
time,
Hmm.
and so that could have big implications for the overall economics, and it could have big implications about what
Yeah.
what we do over the next few years in terms of just expanding that idea.
Mhm. Absolutely. No, and I mean, if you look at figure two, this cross section of holes four, six, and eight, I found it also really interesting because in that main tuff horizon, you had, I would say, very close to the surface, 1.04%, and you had almost 1% U3O8. I think that is a fantastic sign. And then it goes a bit more down to 0.63%, which is like your historical resource estimate. And then when you go really like almost to the end of that, then you are at 0.19%. So it looks like this is the perfect value for, let's say, open pit.
Well, you have to remember too. All of this, even though it's a little, some of the stuff's a little deeper, some of the stuff's at surface. It's still nothing is below 300 meters, which,
Hmm.
in an open pit scenario, that you can make a pit down to 300 meters quite easily. You have to
Hmm.
you have to play the trade off between strip ratio
Hmm.
and going underground at some point. Typically in the past, for gold and copper and things like that, other metals, when you see a deposit like this, it's sort of a narrow, high grade, subvertical ore body.
Hmm.
Typically, it's 20-30% open pit, 60-70% underground. But there's no that just happens to be how it tends to sort out in terms of the best economics. But the fact that we're finding these lenses in the hang wall, again, if we can find more of that, that just adds the optionality about how you eventually are gonna mine this.
Hmm.
So, it's doing sort of three great things. It's adding resource, it's
Hmm.
improving our knowledge, and it's also down the road it's improving the ultimate economics of
Hmm.
whatever's gonna be.
Which we always like to see.
Of course, hey, it's all
Absolutely.
it's about uranium, but it's about the money too.
Yeah, definitely. I saw also what I found very interesting is holes 4 and 13. You had quite nice copper values. From where does that come?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the overall point of the copper, notwithstanding the actual nice values, is that it's a mineralized environment, and it's always nice to see those byproducts.
Hmm.
How that's going to come out in the con, and how we're going to get hopefully paid for that.
Hmm.
We'll determine when the time is right. But the fact it's in the right geological environment just gives us more credence that we're in the right spot.
Hmm. And that would be for the future. This is not a problem to have copper and uranium together associated, let's say for metallurgy reasons, recovery. That's no problem.
No, not from a metallurgy standpoint, but it's always the trade off, whether you go to a smelter if you're copper, or if
Hmm.
you're producing a copper compound. We would be going to sort of an intermediary, and the push and pull of all these is that they never want to pay you for what you have in it. You always want to get paid for it.
Hmm.
So you have to sort of play the game a little bit when you get there.
Hmm.
But given that our con is fairly pure, it's 70%. I mean, we have more work to do, and we have no impurities. There's a list of
Hmm.
impurities. It's maybe 30 or 35 elements or so. And if you're below the certain levels, it's viewed as a good con because it's not too, it just increases the number of people that can process it.
Hmm.
To the extent you have more impurities, it just lessens the number of people because the extraction process is not super perfect.
Hmm.
And so in that way, we've got an open playing field, and it's that con will be a valuable that yellow cake will be valuable yellow cake when it comes to market.
Hmm. Absolutely. Okay. So I think the major goal for next year is to, let's say, prove or maybe enlarge even the historical inferred mineral resource. That was 43.3 million pounds at 0.69% grade. I think that looks quite good that you can hold the grade at least and maybe add some pounds.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our goal for next year has always been the same. It's been this year to complete our drill program, which we've done, and everyone can see the
Hmm.
results.
Hmm.
You can see the cross sections. We're adding resource. We just don't quite know the numbers yet. And do the same next year. Have a good drill program, and then at
Hmm.
the end of next year, around this time next
Hmm.
year, update the resource so everyone can see the growth. We can bring the technical report, which is still valid, but because it's with another company, we'll
Hmm.
bring that in our name. So everyone, it'll be current and great, and people will
Hmm.
be able to see the growth for themselves.
Fantastic. And then maybe we have a uranium price well above $100 per pound.
It's certainly we're certainly in the right environment for the uranium
Yeah,
price to go up. So it's a good time for uranium.
yeah, definitely, absolutely. And most importantly, in those markets, you have the money to do so.
Yeah, yeah, the money's not always available. So
Hmm.
we made the decision that when it was offered to us, we should probably take it and just de-risk next year's program. And
Mhm.
yeah, because
Yep,
you know,
super.
adding resource.
That's the point. Super final sentence. Thank you very much, John. Adding resources. This is the name of the program, I would say. Wish you very Merry Christmas. Thank you very much and all the best.
Yeah, same to you, Jochen. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah,
Bye
ladies and
now.
gentlemen, that was John Jentz, the CEO from Labrador Uranium, and yeah, you Labrador Latitude Uranium. Sorry, it's too much uranium here. No,
Yes.
but really, this is the name. Is the program? Add resources, find new resources, and enlarge the resources. This is exactly what the company is doing. They had a successful two-phase drill program. Now everything is published. It looks really good. They have the money to go really with a strong back into the year 2024. The drills will turn again, and by the year end of next year, we will see then hopefully a much larger and a real resource, not only a historical one. So stay tuned. Make sure you have some Latitude Uranium as I have. I'm a shareholder in the company. So thanks for watching us, and bye bye from Switzerland.